Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the priesthood and teachers. There are a lot of really strange ideas and misconceptions about teachers and the whole priesthood title business. And I do want to share my view on that because I think a lot of people don't really understand my view of that. They seem to think there are people out there who think that the priesthood is the beginning and end all of all demonolatry. Oh, or that, belonging to a group and having a title is like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's not it. A group does not a demolator make, and a title does not a demolator make. Here's the thing. Groups, okay, let's back up here and go for groups. Groups are for socializing, worship, and learning from other people. Generally, group magic is a freaking joke, okay? I am not a huge fan of group magic. There have been a few people I've met throughout my life that I work really well with. So usually if I do magic with other people, it's like one or two other people, and they're people that I actually work well with. Or they're people I'm just checking out to see if I work well with. Most often, not. And then you have people who have, okay, so the whole group, the group framework, you have to understand, titles are often given to kind of like describe a job within a group, because there does need to be order within a group in order for a group to function. First of all, you have your beginners or your initiates or pre-initiates. Then you have your people that are called adept. They're basically people who are spiritually able to guide themselves on their own path. Okay, they don't necessarily need a teacher to handhold them anymore. That's what we mean when we say adept in demonolatry. It has nothing to do with magic. Magical adeptness is like a totally different story, but we can talk about that later. So basically, the spiritually adept person can help guide the people who are just starting out. Now, you have to understand that the real teachers, okay, you may have a human teacher, but the real teachers are actually the demons themselves. A real teacher can give you a ritual to do. They can tell you what books to read. They can kind of tell you where to look to find the information you're looking for. But the reality is that the teacher is you doing the prescribed work and working with the demonic in order to learn the lessons that you need to learn in order to continue on your path. So really, other people are really not required in your spiritual path at all. That is the reality of it. That is 100% the reality of it. You don't need to have the title of priestess. In a group, the priest or priestess functions as the person who puts together all of the rituals and who performs all of the rituals and who, calls everybody and says, hey, are you all free on the 15th to do this rite to whatever, okay? Now, if you want to talk about true priesthood, once again, like initiation, which we discussed earlier, that is one of those things that also comes from within. Generally and traditionally, people were priests of their matron or patron. For example, I am a priestess of Leviathan, which can be a double-edged sword, but I've always been a priestess of Leviathan, and that's something internal. I don't need to run around bragging about it, but I also have the title of priestess in my group. So that way people know that they can come to me, like, okay, if they're finding that, none of the adepts are able to guide them or point them in the right direction, I might be able to do that. Or they come to me and say, hey, when is the next ritual? Or, hey, are you performing this ritual? Or whatever, or can you perform this ritual for me? Or whatever. And really, you don't really even need a priest or priestess to perform the ritual for you. It's just sometimes it's easier and more profound in certain rituals to have somebody else perform it for you so you can actually internalize the ritual and you can more deeply connect with it without having to worry about having to perform the actions or whatever yourself. It's kind of like having a seer and an operator, okay, during a goetic invocation or evocation. So that's pretty much the point of the groups and the point of the title structure within the group. But being a priest or priestess is not the beginning or end all. It does not guarantee that you're going to get respect. Trust me on this. I know this. I've had a priesthood title for quite some time, and respect is still one of those things that's earned. Because no one's going to just go, oh, you're a priestess? Oh, I totally respect you. No, it doesn't work that way, guys. Sorry. And yes, in traditional generational demonolatry, in Gen Dem group, we do have, like, not, you just can't wake up one day and go, yes, I'm a priestess, haha. Okay. You do actually, you know, have to kind of work your way up to that. But even then, being a priest is something you really have to internalize. I mean, I was a priestess for a lot of years before I was even accepted into the inner sanctum. Okay, and there's certain rituals I was not allowed to. And now, finally, after all these years, I'm really starting to understand the work. And it's become about the work for me, and it's not about the group. I mean, there was a time in my life it was about the group, and I thought the group and the titles were the beginning and end all of all demonolatry. And the older I get, the more I learn how wrong that is, and how I really have grown. I've actually grown into the priesthood. Even if I hadn't have taken on those titles, I would have eventually grown into it. Because I was called to it, and I was accepted for it by the divine source. It had nothing to do with someone over there going, okay, you're a priest. Okay, that's not how it works. And anyone who thinks it does work that way is foolish. And anyone who thinks that I think it works that way is foolish. So, really, your spirituality, once again, and I've said this in all of my books, I've been saying this for years, your spirituality is about you and your connection to the divine. It has nothing to do with anybody else and nobody else's spirituality. It's not a competition, people, okay? Just because, you know, so-and-so has been deemed adept, able to guide themselves on their own spiritual path, and just because, you know, say your group leader or whatever has said, well, yeah, we'll do your adepthood ritual next year. I think you need another year to, you know, kind of learn the ropes a little bit, because maybe you're still too dependent on your teacher. A big difference, okay? I really, though, titles are for you. They're not for anybody else. They are for you. And I think some people need the title to feel good about themselves, but some people, I mean, those titles just manifest for them. So that's also something to consider. But once again, you don't have to agree with me. I'm certainly not right about everything, I'm sure. But I have ideas, I have thoughts, I'm sharing them with you. You can take them as you will. And you're not required to agree with me at all. Thanks.